So we're about to construct a Punnett square, but before we start we need to consider some different words that we're going to use while we're constructing that Punnett square. So the first one is gametes, and gametes refers to the sex cells in our body. So males produce sperm and females produce ova or egg. Now the interesting thing about these is that both of these cells are haploid. That means that they contain half of the DNA of all the other cells in your body, which we call N, so the haploid number. Whereas diploid cells of our other cells, so diploid, most of our cells are diploid, they contain 2N. So haploid are half cells, which means that we inherit half of our DNA from our mum and half of our DNA from our dad. Now, a gene is a region on a chromosome that codes for a particular protein or a particular strand of RNA. An allele is the version of that gene that you inherit. So we will often talk about the gene, the region of the DNA, and then which allele you have inherited. And you actually inherit 2 alleles, one from mum and one from dad. Now there's 3 other really confusing words that we use when we're discussing alleles, and they're confusing because they're very similar. So the first one is homologous, and homologous means having the same alleles or genes in the same order of arrangement. So we often talk about homologous chromosomes or chromatids. So we might say that there are two chromosome 21s, and we're looking for homologous structures in those chromosomes to say that they're both 21 chromosomes. Whereas heterozygous and homozygous refer to the genotype of that organism. They refer to what genes or what alleles are found in each of the offspring. So if the offspring has hetero or 2 different alleles for the same gene, they're called heterozygous. Zygous refers to the egg or the offspring, the zygote. Homozygous, homo meaning same, means 2 identical alleles for the same gene. So this means that the same gene's been inherited from mum as it's been inherited from dad. Whereas heterozygous means that a different allele has been inherited from mum compared to the allele inherited from dad. A Punnett square is a tool that helps us identify whether the offspring will be homozygous or heterozygous, and the percentage or the possible outcomes of that breeding. Genotype means the genetic makeup of the offspring, so which alleles they actually have, and the phenotype is the appearance or the function of that organism based on their genotype. So we're going to use these words now to construct a Punnett square, that tool that we used before. So this is a basic Punnett square grid, and at the top here we usually put down mum, and on the side here we usually put down dad. It actually doesn't matter which order you put those in, but generally we put mum at the top and dad at the bottom. Now, mum is going to have her entire DNA, her entire her entire cell, with 2 copies of the DNA. They're going to form through mitosis and they're going to form through meiosis 2 daughter cells that are going to contain half the DNA. So either this one or this one will get passed down. And dad is going to do the same. So these will form ova. Okay. On this side, dad's going to do the same thing. So he's going to have his cells, and they're going to form 2 sperm. So in this case, we can actually say that mum is heterozygous. Because in this situation, her 2 alleles are different. There's a pink one and there's a purple one. Whereas dad is homozygous, because both of his alleles are the same. Okay, so often we give these different alleles for different genes, different names. So in this case, we're going to look at a simple eye colour. Let's call it eye colour. Now, this is a very simplified version. So in this case, if the child's going to have blue eyes, they'll actually have the recessive gene. So we're going to call this little b. And if they've got brown eyes, which is dominant, we're going to call that a big B. Okay? So what we're going to say here is that mum is heterozygous. She has one big B and one little b. So her phenotype will be brown eyes because she has the big B gene, so that's dominant, that's going to be expressed. So she's going to have brown eyes. But Dad is homozygous, and he's going to be homozygous for blue eyes. So he's got both of the recessive alleles here, not the gene. The gene's the same, it's the eye colour gene, but the allele is either the dominant allele or the recessive allele. And Dad's got two recessive alleles, so he's homozygous, and he will have the phenotype blue eyes. Okay, so when the inheritance happens, Mum makes an egg that's got the big B, and she makes an egg that's got the little b. In fact, she'll make hundreds of these, so it becomes a lot more random. But this is, as I say, a simple tool for working out roughly the percentage. So Mum's going to hand down her big B allele to these eggs, and to these eggs she's going to hand down the little b allele. Now Dad's going to make sperm that only have little b's in them because that's all the only allele he has to give. So in this half of the sperm he's going to make little b's, and in this half of the sperm he's going to make more little b's. Okay. So now we can see 4 potential offspring. And if they've got big B, little b, their phenotype will be brown eyes. So this one down here will also be brown eyes. But if they've got little b, they're actually going to have blue eyes. So what we can say is that if this mum and this dad have offspring, then half of their offspring will be big B, little b genotype and have the phenotype brown eyes. And if they don't have that one, then half will have little b, and they'll have blue eyes. Now another way of saying half is 50%. So we can say in our statement that 50% of all offspring will have brown eyes and 50% of all offspring will have blue eyes with this particular pairing of parents.